So now I'll introduce Dr. Sara Wilcox and Ms. Deborah Kinnard, and you will meet other members of our fan team as we go throughout the morning. Dr. Wilcox is a professor in the Department of Exercise Science here in the Arnold School of Public Health, and she's the director of the Prevention Research Center. She holds a doctorate in clinical psychology from Washington University in St. Louis, and completed postdoctoral training in cardiovascular disease epidemiology and prevention at Stanford University. Her expertise is in promoting physical activity, healthy eating, and weight loss among adults and older adults, with a focus on African American communities and underserved communities. Over the past 15 years, she's worked with faith-based communities to create healthy church environments, and most notably, she's the creator of the FAN program. Dr. Wilcox will provide an overview and highlights of the FAN program, and she will introduce you to our guests today from churches that are implementing FAN. Here, four ladies here in the front. Ms. Deborah Kinnard is a program manager in the Prevention Research Center. Ms. Kinnard is a graduate of the University of Tennessee at Knoxville with a bachelor's in psychology and interdisciplinary studies. She began working with South Carolina communities as a graduate student in clinical and community psychology at USC. She's worked with interdisciplinary research teams for community-based prevention programs in South Carolina for more than 15 years. Since 2007, most of her time has been devoted to the FAN program. And Ms. Kinnard will facilitate our panel this morning of our guests after Dr. Wilcox's presentation. Again, welcome, Dr. Wilcox.
And I'm going to do a brief microphone check. Okay. All right, we're set. Well, good morning and welcome. I would like to thank everyone for being here today. And as the director of the USC Prevention Research Center, I'd like to especially extend a very warm welcome to those visitors coming onto campus. I hope our parking didn't scare you from coming onto campus again, and I apologize for that if it did. This is our third annual symposium that's focused on working with faith-based communities to promote health. Some of the feedback that we've gotten in previous symposiums is that people wanted more time to really talk with and hear from the churches on some of the more kind of nitty-gritty details. And so we've extended the length of the symposium this year to accommodate that interest. My presentation will provide an overview of the Faith Activity and Nutrition program so that you'll have a foundation to help you put the partners' comments and experiences into better perspective as the day moves along. So this morning I'm going to briefly describe how the FAN program came about, what we view as the core program elements, and how the program actually gets implemented into the churches. In our current project, the training and the technical assistance for FAN is provided by community health advisors. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the training and the technical assistance that they get to put FAN into place with the churches. And then I'll conclude my presentation in talking about how FAN helps churches to plan for sustainability and maintenance of activities. So let's begin with the development of FAN. We were funded in 2006 to develop a faith-based program to promote physical activity and healthy eating. And this work was done in very close partnership with the 7th Episcopal District of the AME Church. We spent the entire first year of our grant really working closely with the church to develop the FAN program and also its evaluation. FAN was then put in place using a randomized study design in 74 AME churches. The program was shown to significantly increase fruit and vegetable intake as well as leisure time physical activity. And partly because of that, it is now featured in the National Cancer Institute's Research Tested Intervention Programs, or RTIPs as it's called. And it received a very high rating for its potential for dissemination. So we were well positioned to take the project kind of to the next level. In 2014, we were funded to study the dissemination and implementation of FAN more broadly. A major change of the program relative to our previous grant was to recruit and train community health advisors, who then provided the training and technical assistance to the churches. So in the first phase of the study, and what you'll hear most about today, we partnered with Fairfield Community Coordinating Council, as well as Fairfield Behavioral Health Services, to offer the program to any interested church in Fairfield County. And we were so pleased that 41% of all churches in the county adopted FAN. Our evaluation is showing that the outcomes that we're seeing in this phase 1 are very comparable to the outcomes that we saw in our larger, kind of more controlled study, if you will. So that's great news. Today you're going to hear from 2 churches in Fairfield County and their experiences in putting FAN into place. In April and May of this year, we also trained churches from the South Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church, and a little over 10% of all churches across the state in the conference adopted the program. And we plan to do another training in a future year to increase that number. So with that short background, I'd like to go over the core program elements of FAN. So even though, if you think about it, a holistic view of health is really embraced in most religious writings, many houses of worship make it very difficult for people to make healthy choices. You all are here in Columbia, probably many of you have gone to a church, and you know that our churches, we like fried chicken, we like mac and cheese, and we like not just one starchy side dish, but often 2 or 3 or more. And so FAN is really designed to help churches to create a healthy church environment for physical activity and healthy eating. The program recommends that churches promote to members physical activity and healthy eating targets that are consistent with federal guidelines, and those include accumulating at least 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity physical activity, so that would be something like brisk walking most days of the week, as well as eating a diet that's high in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, while also being low in fat, especially saturated in trans fats, and sodium. So guided by the structural model of health behaviors, FAN uses 4 main strategies that are designed really to expose all members of the congregation to this healthy environment. I think you're going to hear that FAN's a very flexible program, so there are many ways that a church could target those 4 strategies to really make it work well in their own setting. So the first strategy that is part of FAN is for churches to increase opportunities for physical activity and healthy eating. Churches are really encouraged to try to build in these opportunities to existing church activities. So having them occur before, during, or after a regular church events. This approach really allows churches to reach more people, as well as to make it more convenient. So people don't necessarily have to make special trips to come to church midweek for an exercise program or something like that. Now, some churches are interested in offering physical activity programs, and we're hearing that walking groups, walking contests tend to be the most popular, in part because most people can walk, and also because you don't necessarily have to walk together at church to have a group walking contest, but you can do it on your own, but still get the support of your congregation through your sharings. We also encourage churches to make links to the community. So for example, reaching out to local gyms or Ys to see if they can get discounted memberships for their members, or providing a list of low-cost or free resources in the community where people can go to be physically active. For healthy eating, churches are really encouraged to build in more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, as well as low sodium and low fat snacks whenever food is normally served at the church, and food, meals and snacks. We also encourage churches to modify some of their favorite foods, which can sometimes be more appealing than just scrapping the menu and starting anew. And we really emphasize during our trainings the importance of making healthy food tasty food, okay, through the use of things like spices, herbs, and seasonings, so that members don't try things that are billed as healthy and say, oh, that's bland, I don't like that, I don't want anything to do with healthy foods. The second strategy is for churches to set healthy guidelines, practices, or policies around physical activity and healthy eating. We don't care really which term the church uses, whether it's a guideline, practice, or policy, but what we're really striving for is to get churches to set formal, written, ideally, policies or practices that help guide the way the church does business for physical activity and healthy eating. So on this slide here, you can see some examples for both physical activity and healthy eating guidelines. These are simply examples. They're not things that we say to churches, you need to go put these guidelines into place. We encourage churches to look at what sort of guidelines are most needed in their churches and which ones do they think members will be comfortable with and be accepting of. The pastor is a key leader and a role model in the church. But yet, the demands of pastoring and the social obligations that often come with it can lead pastors to not always live very healthy lifestyles. We see research on that pastors don't really take care of themselves and their health the way that maybe we would like them to. Those of you who were here at last year's symposium may have remembered Reverend Sean Dogan talking about moving to a new church, and I don't remember how many pounds he gained. It was something like 40, 50 pounds. And he said it was partly just this pressure to attend every invitation from members that involved food and to eat lots of it, and often not of a healthy variety. And then he made a note that one of his members then commented, Reverend Dogan, why are you getting so fat? So the third strategy is really to enlist the support of the pastor for fans' goals and also to support the pastor's health. So providing pastors with information and messages that they can then take to their congregation and share just makes it easier for the pastor to be supportive of fan and to share a consistent message. Many of our fan pastors have preached about health and linked this message with scripture, which I think really reaches the members at a very deep level that they can resonate with. The program also encourages pastors to care for their own health. And we do this in several ways. One is to provide pastors an activity every month. This is an example of one where pastors are encouraged to track their fruits and vegetables as well as physical activity. And ideally, if they're comfortable, to then share that with their congregation and their own journey toward better health. We've heard from many churches as we've gone around the state that sometimes when a church has made a change in their healthy eating, it's because something happened to the pastor. The pastor had a heart attack, developed diabetes, and then the members rallied around that and made changes. So we're encouraging changes before we reach that point. Members are also encouraged to consider the pastor's health and the health of the pastor's family when they provide gifts and share foods and meals. So if there are any pastors here today, I'm not sure if there are, who stopped getting plates of fudge as a result of fan, and it's their favorite fudge, I'm sorry for that, but it is probably better for their health for that to happen. So there are other ways that we can thank our leaders other than unhealthy snacks that are common. The final strategy in FAN is to get the message out to members about physical activity and healthy eating. Churches have very well-established communication channels for sharing information and connecting members, and so the program provides materials that can be shared through those channels. So we encourage every church to create a FAN bulletin board You can see an example from an actual church here of theirs. We provide bulletin inserts. Churches can make announcements, have health moments, and various things to really make sure, again, that all members are hearing this message. So how does a church put FAN into place? I'm going to walk you through the program from the perspective of the church. So the first thing that we ask churches to do is to create a committee of around 3 to 5 people, and the committee must include the FAN coordinator. But beyond that, we strongly recommend that other committee members be the pastor, maybe the person who's the cook or does meal planning, maybe a youth director if that position is one the church has. But really what we want are people in the church who are passionate about physical activity, healthy eating, and health, so that they can then share the message and take on the responsibilities. The committee then attends a full-day training where they learn about the importance of physical activity and healthy eating, and they plan activities for each of the 4 strategies that I outlined a couple slides ago. The training includes active breaks, so that it can demonstrate to them how they could go back into their church and lead these types of breaks in meetings and events. A food demonstration and tasting is provided, and all of the food, the lunch, and the snacks that are served are consistent with the principles of FAN. During the training, the churches begin a FAN program plan, and they later submit that to USC, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment. After training, the church is encouraged to hold a kickoff event to let the congregation know about FAN, what the goals are, and also to hopefully build some excitement around it. Churches have been really creative here in their kickoff events. One of the churches that we have worked with in Fairfield County developed a skit that they performed for their congregation. And the skit really beautifully embraced the main goals of FAN. It connected FAN to scripture, as well as to the health needs of the community and their own congregation. And it also poked fun, but in a lighthearted way, of the potential misconceptions people might have about physical activity and healthy eating, as well as some resistance to change, which, you know, in most of our settings, change can be something that we need a little prodding to make. We strongly recommend that the committee meets regularly, ideally monthly, and that can be as freestanding committee or part of a larger ministry like a health ministry. And those meetings allow the churches to really plan their activities for the upcoming month. We're seeing that churches that hold regular committee meetings are much more likely to actually put the FAN activities into place. So it seems to be quite important that the churches do that planning and meeting. And finally, the FAN coordinator and the pastor are called on a rotating basis every month for 12 months. And these are brief calls where the churches receive technical assistance if needed, and it's also a way for us to hear about both challenges and successes that the church is having in putting FAN into place. Throughout the training, churches are led through an assessment and planning process, and that's guided by an interactive workbook. It's the assessment and planning guide that all churches receive. So for each of the 4 strategies, the committee assesses what, if anything, are they currently doing. So for example, in providing opportunities for healthy eating. And then they select ways to either add, enhance, or expand their activities. Really, apart from a few core activities like sharing bulletin inserts, the church really decides what they plan to do and what they think will be best suited to their congregation. So that's where the flexibility comes in. This planning and brainstorming of the training also allows the church committee to get a head start in developing their plan so that they don't go back to the church and kind of have to start from scratch in developing the plan. So they hopefully have a good start and they go back and just finalize it, maybe get their pastor's approval or board approval. At the training, each church receives a resource binder with 12 months of materials to help them put the activities into place. So these include the monthly bulletin inserts, They get a monthly newsletter, colorful handouts that they can post on their fan bulletin board, and also materials that they can share the messages with in either a printed or a verbal form with their congregation. They receive Gospel Liftoff CDs, so the Gospel Liftoff is just a 10-minute physical activity break that's set to gospel music, and churches can use that in meetings and events. All materials and more, we include like lots of healthy recipes, are provided also on a flash drive, so they have electronic versions of everything. In addition, each person who attends the training receives a pedometer that we hope will help them be more active, but also role model that to their congregation. And they get a folder of training materials and resources. So they leave the training with, for example, handouts on how to lead physical activity breaks in their church, as well as how to lead a food demonstration. We do a yogurt and fruit parfait, and the churches have really enjoyed it. Lots of churches are now serving the yogurt and fruit parfait at their meals and snacks. I mentioned at the beginning of the talk that community health advisors, rather than university staff, deliver the training and technical assistance to the churches. And I want to take just a moment to tell you about the training that they receive. So the community health advisors begin their training by completing self-paced modules. And these provide, before they actually come in for training in person, an opportunity to just get more of a background in physical activity and healthy eating, and to learn what their roles and responsibilities will be. They then attend a full-day training that's led by USC, and they learn how to lead the church committee trainings. But as part of this training, they actually take part in a church training, so they can see model to them what the training that they'll then have to deliver to the churches looks like. After this in-person training, they complete some more self-paced modules, and they really focus on delivering the technical assistance calls, and then for research purposes, how to enter contacts into a database. After they practice on their own, in phase 1, we brought the community health advisors back to do some practice and feedback with the USC staff, and then after they actually train the churches, we offer quarterly booster training calls with the community health advisors where we can talk through some of the common challenges that they might be having in delivering the calls and work together to find solutions. The approach used in FAN is designed really to try to change the culture of health in churches. And we think this has the goal and possibility then of creating lasting changes. There are several ways that FAN encourages the sustainability. So first, the program encourages churches to continually assess what's working, what's not, to modify their approach where needed, and to gradually build on successes. So don't start everything at once. Start small, have some success, and build from there. Because FAN is not about just offering an aerobics class or a cooking class, but really addresses church policy, systems, and environments, it's more likely to be woven into the culture and the practice of the church. Several months ago, we had a discussion with a lot of the FAN coordinators in Fairfield County, and that's really what they heard from them, that this was a change the church has made. It's now just a part of the way they do business, and they didn't anticipate going back to the previous ways of how the church was operating in these areas. And lastly, as the churches approach the end of their 12-month calls, the community health advisor works with them to develop a plan for the next 12 months. Okay, so that it's really thinking about a continual process of making plans for the year and then trying to implement those plans. I hope my overview has given you a clearer picture of what FAN is all about. I want to thank you again for being here today and for your attention this morning. And with that, I want to turn now to hearing from the churches who've been putting FAN into place in Fairfield County. You're going to hear from one church that was trained in the fall of 2015, St. John Baptist Church. And so they're actually nearing the end of the second year of program implementation. You'll hear from a second church that was trained more recently in the fall of 2016, First United Methodist Church. And so they're nearing the end of the first year of program implementation. So I presented a big picture overview of FAN, but I'm really grateful and honored to introduce 4 of our church partners who will talk about, again, some of the more nitty-gritty details of how churches can take an evidence-based program and put it into practice. So I'd like to invite the panelists to come to the front and to have a seat by your name tag, and then I'm going to go ahead and introduce each of them to you. All right, so first this morning we have Ms. Queen Davis. Ms. Davis is the FAN coordinator of St. John Baptist Church in Winnsboro. She is a retired educator, and her accomplishments include being the first woman to be principal of Fairfield Central High School. And in fact, their National Honor Society chapter is named after her. She is a past director of secondary education with Fairfield County Schools, and in 2016, Ms. Davis was an inductee in the Fairfield County School District Hall of Fame. Next, we have Ms. Yolanda Dodd. Ms. Dodd is the First Lady of St. John Baptist Church, and she's the co-coordinator of the FAN committee in her church. She's a graduate of both Clemson University and, fortunately, the University of South Carolina as well. And Ms. Dodd serves as a community volunteer in both Richland and Fairfield counties. Next, we have Ms. Barbara Martin. Ms. Martin is the chairperson of the FAN committee at First United Methodist Church in Winnsboro. She's actively involved in her church, chairing multiple committees. Ms. Martin is semi-retired from Palmetto Health Home Care, where she worked for 25 years. In her home health experience, Barbara saw the results of chronic diseases like cardiovascular disease and diabetes in her community. And she believes that education like the FAN program can make a real difference to help reduce the risk of chronic diseases. And finally, I'm happy to introduce Ms. Sara Dorrier McMaster. She is a member of First United Methodist Church, where she holds several leadership positions. Ms. McMaster is a graduate of Winnsboro High School, Salem College, and the USC College of Library and Information Science. She served as director of the Fairfield County Library from, now I've got my numbers right, 1977 to 2016. So, her contributions to the library were such that the Fairfield County Library building has been renamed in her honor as the Sara D. McMaster Fairfield County Library. She has also served as president of 2 statewide library associations. Ms. McMaster is past president of the Fairfield Community Coordinating Council, the Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce, and the Winnsboro Rotary Club. So I'd ask you to join me this morning in welcoming this distinguished panel. Sorry, I got so excited about all you've done that I forgot your pictures. Okay, and with that, I would like to turn the podium over to Ms. Deborah Kinnard, who will moderate this portion of the symposium.
Good morning. I'd like to think that I have the easiest job today. My task is to merely pose a few questions for our panelists, but I think that we've assembled a wonderful group and that their enriching experiences will speak for themselves. My job is to just merely keep us on task today, to keep us on track in terms of time. So, again, I will open with a few questions. If you as audience members have questions, please jot them down and we will allow for a brief question and answer period following our discussion. So why don't we start out today by hearing a little bit about what motivated your churches to take part in FAN. And let's start with St. John Baptist.
Can you hear me back there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
Doctor. Well, St. John had participated in the Fairfield Behavioral Health Initiative. And I believe that we just became enthralled with the whole idea of living healthier lives. We quit smoking. We started eating better. We started doing a little bit of walking. We just started doing some things as groups and as individuals and as a church community. We just carried that over when we heard of FAN. We never stopped any of that. So it did become a part of St. John to try to live healthier. So when FAN came around, we just continued to do it, and we just fed it right into the FAN program. So by the time we had a kickoff, we were still rolling, so we said kickoff. Well, we have to have a kickoff. And we did that. But we were motivated by what had happened before and how we felt about all of that. We saw people quit smoking. We were just amazed that we could make a difference in their actual lives beyond the spiritual, and including the spiritual. So FAN was perfect, because the members told me, they didn't want me standing up in front of them talking health a lot. They told me that. So now we have a program that builds it in. It's not separate. It's just a part of, and it works all along. We don't have to say, let's stop for a minute now and let's talk health. We don't have to do that because we were able to build it into the fabric of our lives in the church. So we were motivated by what had gone before, the successes that had been built, and we just moved on.
Thank you.
Well, you heard Dr. Wilcox mention the Fairfield Community Coordinating Council and the fact that I was a part of that group, and both Dr. Wilcox and Deborah Kinnard have been very active members of that group in Fairfield County because of their relationship with the Fairfield Behavioral Health Service, which is our alcohol and drug agency in Fairfield County. And the Coordinating Council is like an interagency group that meets monthly, and Sara and Deborah had been involved in their No Smoking campaign that I think was a previous grant that they worked with in Fairfield County, and that's what Queen is referring to as well. And so because of my participation in the Coordinating Council, I knew them and had heard them talk about the things that they were doing, and heard them talk about the FAN program. And so I knew what FAN was when the opportunity came along for our church to participate. And then Barbara heard about it in another way, and I'll let her tell you that.
And so we were involved, although we did not sign up to participate in the No Smoking program. We received information about it, and it sounded like a grand idea, but we decided not to do that for that first year. And then we heard about the FAN program, which, as a nurse, I knew all of the potentials that we had in Fairfield County, and I had visited homes of people who had chronic diseases as well, and had done teaching with those families, so I knew what a difference some of that can make. And I also could understand how families were resistant to change because it was long ingrained in the way that they lived their lives. We received information in the mail at our church inviting us to participate in it. I was already attending the behavioral health programs on a quarterly basis to talk about the needs of health in Fairfield County. And we took that information to our vision committee, which is a kind of subset of our administrative council. And in that vision committee, we looked at projects and ideas and things that we want to implement in the next year. So this was something that we thought had a strong potential. And then we really got the support from our district superintendent, who brought that back to our church and all of the Methodist churches in Fairfield County and strongly suggested that we become a part of that. So the four Caucasian churches that are on the FAN program in Fairfield County are Methodist churches. And they have taken that training to the Methodist Conference. And as you heard from Sara, some of the churches are beginning to participate in that. So that was really good. a really good way to get started.
So it sounds like your churches have had some previous success with health programs, with health initiatives, and that also that there was interest among your church leadership in you taking part in the family. Can you tell us a bit about how you engaged your congregations and how you decided what activities you would start out with after you returned to the family?
At St. John, we started out with a survey, just to ask the people what types of activities they like, what they saw themselves doing most often with regards to fitness and nutrition. So that helped us to get the committee to get a head start and actually plan what we would do, so that we would do things that they would actually be interested in, so it wouldn't be a difficult start. And we also started with the health fair as well. And that was a great event. We had community people come in and they provided screening checks. We had people offer presentations as well. And in addition to presentations from Fairfield Behavioral Health, we also had someone come in from Palmetto Health because we participated in an iPledge program. So it was a great opportunity for us to get everything together and provide people with an opportunity to see different aspects of fitness and nutrition.
Okay, so you used the member survey to assess their interests. You offered a little bit of education through your health fair to help open the door for your future planning activities. What about your church?
We had the survey that the fan program does at each church before they get started to collect the data on what health practices, health conditions, and that sort of thing. And that was, we actually began the fan program in November of last year. But that survey was taken after church on a Sunday at the end of July. And we normally have 70 or 80 members at church on Sunday, and 45 of those people stayed for this survey, which I could not believe. I just thought that was fabulous. But the information we got on that, I think, is they took the survey and they realized what they were not doing, because so many of them after the survey said, wow, I guess I failed that test. But that was for us, I think, a real jump start on making people aware of what we perhaps should be doing and what we weren't doing. So that was our introduction to FAN. And then I presented each quarter at the administrative council meeting on the fact that we were getting ready for FAN and this is what it was going to be. So we were bringing people along, and we had probably about 30 people on that administrative council. And that's the core group of people who would take that back to their families. So that also started the introduction to what we wanted to accomplish.
Another thing that helped engage our congregation was that we received the service of the most energetic pastor who runs. He's a runner. I mean, you've got a pastor in the pulpit who runs every day. And the people look to him, and he's young, he's good looking, he's handsome. This pastor, the first time I saw him after we engaged him, I came into the building, I heard him like whistling. I said, who is whistling? This pastor whistles all over the church. That's the kind of charisma he has brought to us. And this is his lovely wife, and she is doubly charismatic. So they're just such an inspiration. She runs faster than he does. So another thing that actually made us motivated was that we do these walks in Winnsboro, the Rotary Walk, Behavior Walk, and our congregation is kind of competitive about that kind of thing. And they want to kind of win. So we brought home some trophies from that first behavior thing that we were doing. So they like that idea of St. John won second place or whatever, they kind of like that. That also helped engage the humanness in you to want to be a part of something. So that was a big boost for our congregation to have this couple leading us. And we will never forget. I mean, we'll always remember how we got started and how much they meant to the start. So if you've got an energetic group, couple, pastoring you, that's a big, big leg up.
Well, after we did the survey and got their survey results back, in our church, if there is a fifth Sunday in the month, we plan some sort of joint program rather than just the adult Sunday school classes meeting separately. We plan some sort of something for the fifth Sunday. It could be a speaker that we invite in, or it could be something that, you know, a member of the church does. But so we took a fifth Sunday, I guess that was in January, fifth Sunday in January of this year, and used that sort of as our kickoff, I guess you could call it. And so we had a program that morning where Barbara presented fan information, and we had displays, and we had the yogurt parfaits. We showed people how to make those, and how let them do a taste testing. Of course, as a librarian, I had a book display of cookbooks and healthy eating and activity things that were available at the library. And I think that really did some awareness. We also had a church member who had lost a lot of weight, and he talked about his experiences with walking and how he modified his eating. And so a lot of people, I think, responded to that and said, gosh, you know, that has made me think about some things I can do. And we do know that some people picked up on some of those ideas, I think. So, and we also gave out pedometers as part of our stipend. We used money to buy pedometers.
And that was the Christmas present that we gave everybody. Because our kickoff actually was the 1st of December. So the second week that after we had started, we decided we would give the pedometers, and we had a little explanation of that in our bulletin. And I would advise getting a better quality pedometer if you're going to do that, but they were pretty successful anyway.
Thank you for that. You've already opened the door a bit, but could you give us a fuller picture of what FAN looks like in your church? Could you tell us about perhaps a healthy eating or physical activity policy, guideline, or practice that you've implemented, and perhaps something that's been particularly successful?
I'll start with that. Our church does not really have cooking opportunities. The Methodist men do cook at their monthly meeting, but they typically have the same thing every time, which is grilled steak. So that's, and it's not a thick steak. So that is okay. They have a baked potato, they have a salad, and they have bread. So the only changes that we're recommending to the Methodist men is that they offer whole wheat bread, and they have baked sweet potatoes. And they look at what their salad dressing is for their salad. So that's the one cooking opportunity that happens at our church. We have those refreshments on the 5th Sunday. We have family night suppers 4 times a year. And the difference that we see in the family night suppers, and I was, when we first got the wonderful, let me just say, the absolutely wonderful information they provide for us on a monthly basis, and the training that we had is just, I mean, it's just outstanding. But in one of those training books had a suggestion on what people can fix and how they can change what they bring to family night suppers. And I was going to pass that out right before the family night supper, and then I thought nobody will come, and if they come, they won't bring anything. So I just, after we had this, I think it was in February, and a Valentine's family night supper. So we didn't know what we would see, but the food that came to that, we had only 8 pieces of fried chicken. The rest was baked chicken, baked pork, chicken casseroles, but we did not have what we typically had, which is large casseroles, and we had like just plain string beans, plain butter beans, salads, fruits. And we did, and it's great, they provide great recipes too, but we did a blueberry fruit salad as a taste testing, and then we had the recipe beside it, and so many people just thought that salad was great, and it was. I mean, it's one that I enjoyed a lot. And then we also that night gave out apples as people left, small, and pink lady apples are my favorite, and they we got those, little small ones, the kids' snack size, and suggested, now when you're looking for a snack tomorrow, have this apple on the kitchen counter, and that will help lead you to what is a healthy snack. So The opportunities for eating, as I said, are the Methodist men, the fifth Sunday. And in that fifth Sunday, we were having things like donuts, sweet rolls, and we have, for those fifth Sundays now, we have cheese, little cheese squares, we have fruit, and we typically have a bran muffin of some type or banana nut bread that is a fan-approved menu. We have whole wheat fruit juice. Hello. We have 100% whole fruit juice for the juice, and of course we still do have coffee. But those type changes have been fairly easy to make, and I think as people have helped their plate, they'll look at one on the fan committee and say, I think I've got a fan-approved plate. Another thing that we do, there's a local eating
Meat and 3 vegetables.
yes, that most of our church at times, not every Sunday, but goes to after church. And people will come by, some of the people who really are adopting diets will come by and look at plates and say, that looks like it's fan food. So, that's exciting to hear.
And the other small thing we did was take the salt shakers off the tables. When we set the tables for a family night supper, we don't put the salt shakers out. They're there, somebody wants to get one out of the kitchen, but we don't just routinely put them on the table.
But it sounds like
Sneaky, very sneaky.
it sounds like you've had a fair amount of success with introducing healthier options, making healthier options available. What about at St.
And
John?
our foods director is a member of the fan team of 4 that went to training. We have a team of 12 in the church, volunteers. But she just set policy that we would not have fried chicken at our church, in our church family gatherings. It may be because a caterer brought it in for a family's having a funeral or something like that. And we also use turkey in preparing our vegetables. That's a policy that she set for us, and there have been absolutely no complaints about that. So policy did take place. Policy changes have taken place.
And,
Go ahead.
and when you say what fan looks like at our church, I think our church has really embraced the fan program with regards to food as well as physical activity. And as Ms. Davis said earlier, this was our first year at St. John, and we literally hit the ground running because there was a Rotary race that we needed to participate in. And then we also had opportunities to get together on Wednesday nights to go walking. And we've done dance class, we've done zucchini pizza, we've done zucchini lasagna, we've done turkey chili after Bible study in the winter when it was cool. So we've done so many different things. We've had a lot of opportunity for all of our members from all ages to participate, from the gospel liftoff to the Wednesday walks. There was something that was low impact that everybody was able to participate in without overextending themselves, I believe. So we've had a great time, and we've gone to lots of different places. We've taken our fan program on the road. We participated in the Cooper River Bridge. So fan is really exciting for us at church because we do overnight trips, so it has been a lot of fun. And in addition to the trips, if you're not able to go with us, there's a walk locally in Columbia or in Winnsboro. We participate in that as well. And you also see fan on our church bulletin program every Sunday. There's a section just for fan because right now we are working towards The Biggest Loser is our big thing right now. So we have a little blurb there encouraging people to continue to exercise and eat healthy so that they can be the biggest loser. And as a church family, we're also walking, and our big thing now is to, well, originally we were supposed to walk 1,450 miles as a church family. We thought that sounded like a large number, and I'll tell you why we selected that. It's our 145th year as a church family. So 145 miles didn't sound like a lot.
No.
But 1,450, we thought, well, that might be, that'll work. Well, we blew that out of the water within 2 months. So our pastor decided we would have a goal of 14,000. 500 miles. So that is in the bulletin as well, encouraging people to walk and turn in their walk log. So that's what FAN looks like at St. John right now.
And those walk logs really help because people are walking. Not everybody's walking on Wednesday night like we started, which was so great. The fellowship was wonderful. But things dwindled, and things changed, and people couldn't make it up, this and that, so and so. But they're walking and they're turning in the walk logs. Now, that's what keeps us up to date with what we're not talking about it so much, but it's on the bulletin and the walk logs are coming in. So and the pastor's talking. He has the bully pulpit. So he's talking, he's telling them how much walking he's doing, you know. That's one of the things he does. He says, I bet you will walk more than I will, you know. He just actually put the challenge out there. So that is exactly how things are going on. I think that all the walking, because, I mean, if you've not walked, have you done the Cooper River Bridge walk? See all your people. Though the rest of you have not done that, you need to be there on April 7th. April 7th. Cross that bridge. You know you love that. Driving over that would be great. I mean, nobody has done that, and I said this was the best experience. So that's a very great motivating factor that we use to try to get people walking. You got to train for that. Every time you got to train for that walk. You can't walk 6 miles up that hill if you don't train so that you can walk.
It sounds like you all have had a great deal of success with engaging your members, and there seems to be a lot of interest. For those who might be wondering if a lay committee can implement a program like FAN, does there seem to be any particular skill set or expertise or resource that's been particularly helpful in getting your committees on track, implementing your programs?
Well, I think the fact that Barbara is a nurse and has extensive home health experience and understands the community and our congregation has been a big help. I think if you have someone in your congregation who has a health background, that is a big plus, I think.
But you can do it without that.
Yes, it's not
Because
necessary.
the information that USC provides has everything that you really need. I mean, it is helpful. I mean, I look through it, and we don't promote everything, or we do not use every handout that they provide for us. So I look through and try to make it specific to what I think the needs of the congregation are. And so maybe from my nursing background, I look at that. But the information they provide is, I mean, if you just used it without a nursing background, you would be fine. On our team is of course, our minister, and a dental health hygienist, and a school teacher, and then Sarah's librarian, and then the nurse. We only have one other nurse in our church, and she's supportive of that. I think that is a help.
Are there other resources or skill sets that seem?
The one resource that we did talk about is we have an absolutely fabulous church secretary, administrator, office person. I don't know exactly what we would call her title, but she has been very, very helpful in bulletin inserts, putting things into our monthly newsletter, making sure that things get distributed, making photocopies, you know, all that sort of thing. She has really, Barbara has kind of been the pusher of that, but she has been a huge support to us, and that has really been helpful because that does take a little bit of the load off of individual ones of us on the committee, and so that has been somebody else who has really helped to disseminate things throughout the congregation. And we do have a pretty good, almost comprehensive email list for the church, and so we've sent some things by email, we put some things out in the bulletin, we put some things out like in the vestibule for people to pick up, and so we've experimented with different ways about how people might like to actually get the information, and so we're still tinkering with that, and we don't think we've made it 100%. We're trying to save paper by emailing, but then there's always the worry that people will say, oh, well, this is the FAN email, but I'm just not going to open that attachment right now, and then do they get back to it later? Maybe, maybe not. So those are issues that we're looking at, but she has been very helpful as a resource for us.
It sounds like you're using those traditional church channels to get the message out to the majority of members. What about pastor support? You've spoken a little bit about the support of your pastor this morning. Can you tell us more about how your pastor has supported or been involved in faith?
And our pastor is very supportive, but unfortunately and fortunately, okay, she was at the initial training. She was pregnant with twins, and she has a 2-year-old, had a 2-year-old at that time. And the Sunday that our kickoff was held, she went in labor and was in the hospital. So we had our fill-in pastor, who was not expecting to start until the 17th of December. He preached that Sunday, and I gave him a bolus feed of what FAN is in an email, and he really was very supportive. And then we did, the committee did a presentation. So she was then out until March on maternity leave after she had the twins. Precious little boy and girl. But since she has been back, she really has, she attends all of the meetings. She has done a FAN sermon, which was excellent. We have all danced in place to Only Christian Soldiers.
That is a long hymn. I recommend you try it. It's a long.
But she does, she does mention something about FAN from the pulpit, and she is at all of our board meetings. So she's really very active to the point that she can be, but thank goodness she was trained, because that helps her understand the whole concept.
Wonderful. So it sounds like she's sharing messages from the pulpit. She's allowing time during your worship service. What about at St. John? How is your pastor involved? I hear
He's good.
he's a dynamic person.
He's very dynamic. He's very involved. He's a part of everything we do. He's in front. We're walking, he's out there. We're going to dance, he's out there. How many? 30 people? 30 people went bowling. 30 members. We have a small congregation. 30 members went bowling, and that includes children. He was challenging everybody to beat him at bowling, and I think somebody did beat him at bowling. That pulpit, he talked about that. Again, so he keeps it all alive. Pastor is #1 in doing this. We probably would not be anywhere this near getting it in the fabric of the church if he were not pastor. It would be more difficult. So you got to be sure you keep the pastor involved. We didn't have to do it though. He's involved anyway. He gets the information. So he had it.
I will agree, my husband is very involved, but we are very grateful for our number one resource is Queen Davis, because she has her finger on the pulse of the church. And if you have someone who knows the church community and knows the church culture, they have you can give them an idea and they will say, well, I really don't think that will work, but if we can tweak it like this and present it this way, that is very helpful. In addition to her guidance and her wisdom, we have a great team of people who are able to reach out to the community, so we can present an idea and they can go out and reach for other resources. So that's been helpful, because we've had someone from the Red Cross to come in, again, Fairfield Behavioral Health. We've had someone from Mental Health from the church as well. And then just people who are skilled in different aspects. Someone who does aerobics, who has an aerobics class in Rock Hill, came down and did a session for us between Sunday school and worship. It was great. So it's just being connected to people and asking, you have not, because you ask not, asking them, well, we have a need, so would you be able to fill that need? And most of the time, if they're not able to, they know somebody who is able to do that. And I think a big thing is enthusiasm. You have to have enthusiasm for the program and enthusiasm for what you're doing. Otherwise, it'll just fall by the wayside, because nobody's excited about it. Nobody wants to do it. If you're not excited about it, and if you don't want to do it, I don't have a health background. I like to eat. Therefore, I must exercise. that's as far as it goes with regards to my health background. But I know that I need to be healthy, and I know I need to be active, and I know I need to eat well. But I'm excited about it because I can run 6 miles on the treadmill. I also like McDonald's French fries. So I think that is a requirement that you have to be excited about it. And I'm excited about eating French fries, so I'm excited about getting people together so I can burn those French fries off.
And when the congregation knows that, they say, oh, it's okay that I had that Coke yesterday. I don't have to be ashamed of it. I just need to still be healthy. Remember that one of the healthiest things to do is try to do some healthy things today. So we don't expect our congregation to make these changes overnight and to all of a sudden be paragon of health and everybody can see it. But we do want them to know what's best. And they know that. When we did the survey, they said they understood what they needed to do. But I eat everything I want. But they understood that they needed to eat more healthy. So we know what our goal is, to try to add more healthy practices to what they're doing anyway. And we have a person in our church who I don't know if she has any real background with this, but she produced one of the best looking cookbooks you ever saw. And so she has enough computer skills to do that. And all of our makeover recipes were in there. It was a very, very popular item. Everybody wanted our cookbook. So we had help there. So there are people in your congregations who probably can do things that you didn't even, I didn't know she could do all of that, but if you just ask for the assistance there, I need volunteers to do things, they'll come forward and I'll say, oh my goodness, I didn't know you could do all that. And you find out all these good skill sets that nobody would have done anyway.
Yeah, so it sounds like looking for those fan champions in your church. People who may or may not have health backgrounds or professional training, but definitely people who are familiar with your church practices and people who are energetic and enthusiastic.
And I would add, I think Queen touched on one thing, which is, you go back to the old judge not that ye be not judged thing. And I don't think, it's not you stand up and shake your finger at people, you shouldn't be eating that. It's offering alternatives and encouragement and information rather than criticism for somebody who might be eating McDonald's French fries. You help them figure out ways to moderate and burn that off.
And I was just going to add the statement she said about starting slow and growing is really what FAN talks about doing, to be able to sustain something that you have started if it is well implemented. It's exciting to me to hear all of their comments. They are in their second year, we're in our first year, and we were trained late because of the I think it was a hurricane. We were supposed to be trained in September. We weren't trained until November. And then our pastor had the twins. And so we started off at somewhat of a disadvantage, but we have started slow and we have grown. One of the other churches that we partner with, is the Methodist Church, has a small congregation, and they have done a lot of very good things. But some of their congregation are like, whoa, I'm just about tired of hearing about FAN. And that's been my goal, that we would not have that. We would make this so that our congregation would see the benefit and would pick out those things that they know they need to do and then be a part of it. So we provide it. We reinforce what we're providing. We tell them what we're going to tell them, we hand the handouts, and then we talk about it after that. So that after this year, we're optimistic that we will just build on the structure, a good solid structure that we have in place and can make it improve. But I'm excited to hear about all that y'all are doing, because
Barbara's taking notes.
I am.
See that she got some of those things.
We know that whenever organizations strive to make change, that there may be a few growing pains along the way. Have you encountered any barriers or challenges or any resistance that you could share with us this morning, and talk a little bit about how you addressed it?
We have. We've encountered some barriers. Weather and natural hindrances. We wanted to do that walking in the evening always because we enjoyed it so much. But it got dark and it got cold. So those evening walks faded away. I mean, people were walking. Somebody found a way to get into the high school gym and walk around up there. I wouldn't tell anybody because I didn't think that was allowed. I said, I won't tell anybody you're doing that. I walk at the rec center in the morning because I'm retired and I had that opportunity. But people found other ways to walk, but that weather really stopped our evening. So that was a barrier that we had to just go around other ways. And people then tried to get them to let us know where they were walking, but they didn't want to do that. They just were doing their own walking thing, but they continued to walk. That's one of the barriers that we ran into, is weather and stuff like that, evening time and all that. Our seniors are reluctant to move. They will tell you that, they're not, when we have gospel lift off, you're up, and so I'm sitting in a chair to model. I know we were trained to model for those who might not be as active in their limbs and things, to see how they could do it too. So I would sit in a chair and I would do modified exercises as gospel lift off was going on through the evening. And some of them would not move a muscle. Then after a while, a couple of people would move a little bit, just a little, but they would tell you that I can't move my knees, my hips. I'm not. So we're being very patient with that. So we're just being patient with that. We're not trying to cajole them into making movements that they feel like they should not make, because we're not sure what's going on with these seniors. But we're just going to continue to model in front of them, continue to have gospel lift-offs between Sunday school and church on a regular basis, and I'll continue to sit in a chair and continue to move. We'll just continue to do that. But we won't plan. We would plan something specific for them at the health fair. That person didn't show up, which was good because they didn't show up either. The seniors did not come. They did not come. I hope they didn't avoid the health fair because of it, but we didn't really see many seniors out that day, maybe one or two. So we're trying to be very patient with our seniors. We'll look for some help. Y'all got some suggestions?
Well, the one idea that we're going to try at our next family night supper is to invite, there's a woman, some of you may know Priscilla Patrick from ETV's yoga program, and she's from Fairfield County, and so we plan to invite her to come and just demonstrate some low-impact stretch movements that she does and promotes, because I think we have some of the same issues of people who, you're not going to get them out there doing aerobics, but if we can show them some stretches and maybe even things they can do seated, we think that will maybe give people some ideas to take home. So we're going to try that. As I'm sure it's seen from our presentation, we have done more in our church with nutrition at this point than we really have done with activity, and that the committee is aware of that, and we've talked about ways that we can try to change that. At this point, most of our members that are exercising it are doing it on their own. And I guess one thing that we should say is that Fairfield County, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Fairfield County, but it's very rural, and we don't really have a lot of opportunities for gym memberships, and some of the, there's no bowling alley, and there's things like that there's very limited opportunities. So walking is one of the really easiest things, I think, to promote to people. That I think there's some barriers community-wise. I know there's some groups that are looking at walkability assessments, and the town has done a really nice lighted walking trail, and the hospital has a nice walking trail, and so there are some opportunities, but again, it's outdoors, so there are the weather challenges there. But those are things that people, I think, are beginning to talk about in the community, which is a good thing.
Gordon Memorial Church is one of the other Methodist churches that's involved in the FAN program, and they have a large gym, and they have fan walking on Tuesday and Thursday from 10 until 11, and they've invited us to participate in that. And we've advertised it twice, and to my knowledge, no one has gone yet, but that is an alternative, and it is air conditioned to be able to do that. So I think that is a really good idea. in our bulletin every Sunday, we have the fan goals listed, and we have, can I hold this up? Yes, you can. And this summer we are doing an informal dress code, and we are also turning up the thermostat. So we have fans that are available, and most everybody is actually leaving them in the pew. But those goals are listed, and one of the goals is 150 minutes of exercise, 150 minutes of exercise. And so somehow that sounded like, I mean, just some tremendous amount, and you just divide 7 into that, and you get, what, about 22 point something minutes of exercise a day, and then you break that down into what is doable, and when you explain it like that, some of the older people that have said to me as I passed them, coming from the fellowship hall into the sanctuary after Sunday school, and they'll say, I lost 5 pounds. I lost 5 pounds. And I'll say, how did you do that? That's wonderful. It has been so encouraging to me as the band committee chairman to get that feedback, and with our inserts to see, while some of the grandparents are not watching their children during children's time, and they're reading the band insert, and then they say, you know, I'd like to get another copy of that because I want to send that to my sister who I need she has. So that was part of the reason we started emailing the band handouts. And it also, of course, is cut down on having that information, having to have it stuffed in the bulletin. We're still, as Sara said, evaluating how we're going to do that. We're doing it that way for the summer. But it is exciting when someone says to me, and the person who sits with me on the back row, who has had no participation in the band program, is when as soon as I sat down 2 Sundays ago, he leaned over and he said, I'm going to start it. I said, what are you going to start? And he said, I'm starting that band program because I really do think that's what I need. So we'll see. But I mean, that is encouraging, and I was very encouraged.
So it sounds like starting slow and allowing gradual change over time, being flexible, adaptable, that we organize activities and plan activities that reach a wide range of people of different abilities. It sounds like those are several keys of success that you shared. So as we wrap up today, is there a lesson learned that you'd like to leave us with today? For churches who might be interested in implementing FAN, is there one lesson learned that you would like to share?
I say, when you have opportunities and have a captive audience, then that is when you need to jump on that opportunity. And for instance, when we have our church meeting, people show up for church meeting because you need a certain number of people in order to conduct business. So we have a large number of people at our church meeting. And at church meetings, we've had the gospel lift-off as a precursor to the meeting so that we can get people active, and we modified the activity for our seniors so that they can do a little lower impact activity, but they're all able to stand and reach their hands up during the entire time. So I would say that if you have opportunities with a captive audience, then take that opportunity to add some activity, or if you're eating, for instance, this past Sunday was Big Sunday at St. John. We had revival this week, and to kick off revival, we all have a meal together. Well, earlier I heard mention that you have a meat and 3 starches and vegetable. Well, we had meat, we had baked chicken, fried chicken, and we also had 3 vegetables, 1 starch. So I would say that we are doing better because we used to have multiple starches, but now we have a lot of vegetables. We have mixed vegetables, green beans, collards, and broccoli peppers.
So looking for ways to make it convenient.
Yes.
Making healthier options available.
Yes.
Doing a few small, sneaky things like taking the salt shakers away. And Barbara we have an elevator at the back entrance to our church that goes up to our Sunday school rooms. And Barbara put a wonderful sign, which you need to read to them, put a sign on the elevator about taking the stairs instead of the elevator.
And the sign says, take the stairs and add years to your life and life to your years. So that's on both the first floor and second floor. And it always tickles me, excuse me for interrupting, when somebody gets to the elevator and they look at that and they back up. And this happened the other day. I was doing the bulletin board and two people came in and they looked at that and they took the stairs. And so, I mean, it's insidious little things that are changing within our church.
Which is all about awareness, which is the bottom line of this whole thing, is awareness of the things that are the goals of faith.
And like serving refreshments that are fan approved at circle meetings. And like having a basket of recipes on the conference room table so that when we have meetings and you're waiting for the meeting to get started or there's some downtime in the meeting, people are pulling out a recipe or they're taking the whole stack and shuffling through them, and then they go out with that recipe. So you know, as adult learners, we're not going to be able to force things down people's throats. But if we can present things that they know that they have a need of and present it in a way that it's doable, and then they can say to themselves, this is one small thing I can do, it'll make a huge difference. So that 20 minutes of exercise, 22.578, I didn't calculate, of exercise that everyone could do every day might be lifting just a can of string beans in both hands while they're watching westerns on TV. It might be standing beside their lift chair, putting their hand on the back and standing on one leg and bringing that knee up because they have arthritis in their knee. And it might be attempting to get some balance because they are unbalanced by having their hand right there and standing.
Or it could be Barbara's and my husband's, who are really good, close friends and are both big guys with some health challenges, sitting there at home talking about how much salt there is in canned tomatoes and that the low sodium tomatoes are always on the bottom shelf. And have you noticed how much sodium there is in baked beans? Now, just getting our two husbands to even look at a food label is real progress.
And so when I came in my den and heard that conversation, they didn't even know I was there. I said, gotcha.
Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your experience with us this morning. Let's give them a hand. Have a wealth of experience to share with us. And later this morning in our breakout session, you'll have an opportunity to ask more in-depth questions. But we wanted to allow about 15 minutes this morning to see if there are any questions from the audience to our panelists, or perhaps to Dr. Wilcox about her presentation earlier this morning. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
My question is, with the flexibility of the program, are there any challenges in terms of fidelity? And you said still effective, so I'm just curious about how do you maintain fidelity with
Please. So the question was, how do you maintain fidelity with adaptability?
Yeah, thanks for that question, and it's one that we frequently get. Where we have the core elements are really these practices. So the core element is having opportunities to be active and to eat healthy. And where the flexibility lies in how people meet that goal of providing opportunities. So it's more of a process that's standard with flexibility in terms of the activities and the choices. And we have just found, working with churches across the state, that apart from a few core things that most churches can do, churches are just so diverse in their size, in the age of their members, in even what's considered kind of appropriate in church, that in my mind, it's very hard to have you must do these exact things. And I think you're also hearing from the panel that that approach is not very well received either in the congregation. So that's kind of the fidelity is more to those 4 overarching strategies or processes.
Okay. Are there other questions?
I was interested that the First United Methodist Church chose not to engage in the tobacco opportunity. Can you
One
explain
of, yes,
that?
our organist smoked, and it was going to be a real issue with that. And so we decided not to do that. I mean, we were interested in it, but, and she's not smoking now, but that was going to be a difficulty.
It was a need to sign a policy, and we felt like that would push to a point where there would be unhappiness at that point. And, you know, it's great to have the information, and I think we certainly are positive about it, but we kind of had to adopt a policy, and we just pulled back at that level because we felt that it would create some controversy at that point. We didn't want to go there.
And that's where you need to know your congregation.
That's right.
Because we had very prominent members of the congregation who smoked. But we signed that policy and we badgered them.
We is much nicer at badgering.
Yeah, guys, and so we just badgered him. We signed the policy and badgered him. Had him sign it, as a matter of fact, because he was one of the head smokers, and he had to sign it for the church. So, you know, I just put him on notice. But you just have to know, I wouldn't have done that had it been that case. I would definitely do it. I don't know how we would have handled it. God would have to lead us. Yes.
Me? So I know you said this is faith, activity, and nutrition. How do you incorporate the actual faith part? Is the faith part just because it's in a faith-based environment, or do you provide resources to connect? Because it seems like these are Christian-based faith communities. So how do you actually show faith and the health part to show that there is a connection and why it is important? Do you provide resources for that, or do they incorporate that themselves from the pastor or the leadership?
Here's an example of one of the inserts that we put in first of the month, and they provide these, and they provide them double page so that they can easily be used as copied and used as bulletin inserts. And this one says, each journey starts with the first step. And the scripture is, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholds him in his hand, Psalms 37. And then the interpretation of that is, for many of us, a healthy lifestyle is more than a dream, is more of a dream than reality. Sometimes making changes seems too hard, but the first step toward a healthy lifestyle doesn't have to be big. A first step can be as simple as taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or swapping out your daily candy with a piece of fruit. Once you decide to improve your health, start with something easy. Every change after that will seem easier. And this is in bold. Be a fan for your health. So small steps can begin today. So each month we have one of those that is the scripture that kind of is the overriding theme of that month's fan program. And when we did our kickoff, I actually brought one of the things that I used in that kickoff. I said, our bodies are on loan from God and we need to treat them as such. If we loaned a friend a car, how would we expect to get it back? We would want it to be in good shape, clean, well-oiled, everything working. It's the same thing with our bodies. So, you know, we just use that sort of stuff. And then I did add, God wants to bless us spiritually, mentally, and physically. And then I used examples for that.
Yeah, and just from the larger training perspective, that is a component of training where we talk about really tailoring messages to the faith environment and integrating scripture into this message. When the trainings that we're doing with United Methodist Church right now, we bring in a lot of the early writings of John Wesley, who spoke a lot about health and the importance of health. So we do try to put it in a biblical perspective in the training. And then the churches and our community health advisors really just do that in such often beautiful ways. The skit that I mentioned was just something that probably we would not have been able to come up with, but in that setting, they put them together. So it's a good question.
Yes.
Are there other resources or partners that you all used or worked with outside of what was provided to you through FAN?
We reached out to other people in the community. We have a diabetes educator in Winnsboro at the Fairfield Hospital. She was great. She would come in. She came in and did diabetes checks for us. And here at Columbia, Palmetto Health has an iPledge program, and I reached out to them, and that was a program where you incorporate healthy eating and activity, and it's, I believe, a 10-week program that you participate in. So we had a large number of opportunities to reach out. With regards to our health fair, we reached out to the Red Cross. They were at the church as well. So we just reached out to different people that we were able to come in contact with.
And we're on the DHEC materials mailing list as well, so if there's something that we think they can provide for us, we just go into that materials library and look it up and just send them an email, and it's on my porch maybe 2 days later. So we have different ways to, there are a lot of resources out there that we use beyond the FAN materials themselves.
And we responded to questions that people had about, like, when we did our 6-month survey to find out really what FAN members, what the congregation thought about the FAN program, then we had at the bottom, and are there things you need that you're not getting? One person said they wanted portion sizes. So, I mean, if you go on the internet and look for portion sizes, I mean, it is just some fabulous, very well diagrammed. So we looked at those type things, but there's just wonderful ideas available. But you wouldn't have to look any further than what USC is providing for you.
I think we have time for one more question.
I would just ask if youth in the congregation were involved, and if so, what role did they play?
In our congregation, our youth is mostly toddlers.
Okay.
And the one, I mean, we have, we're kind of like, have a lot of people here and a lot of people here, but we do have a children's sermon, a children's time during each service, and where the minister will get with the children, and we've always had a candy basket, and now the candy basket has healthier treats than just candy. So we have done that, and with Vacation Bible School this summer, we meet for several, well, I guess 3 or 4 days, and we have a supper. It's an evening program, and we have supper beforehand. And so the FAN committee made some suggestions, and so every night we had fruit, and with kids, we had like carrots, or one night we had watermelon, which was the hit of the night, and so we tried to be a little more aware of the types of things that we were at least including a fruit and a vegetable for every thing during Bible school. And for Bible school activity-wise, that we get a song tape that has, kids do all the activities too, so that's a part of Bible school. And so we've tried to incorporate that sort of thing into the things that we're doing for the younger people, but we don't really have like a teenage youth group right now. But we do take the candy out, mostly out of the candy basket. I won't say every Sunday, but most Sundays it's gotten to be things like pretzels and fruit gummy things, and things that are a little bit less than just Snickers.
And bowling was a hit for our youth. We wanted to do something other than walking, and we had some kids too come walk with us. They were walking with their grandparents, but the children loved the bowling. So even our smallest kids, we put up the bumpers, and they were able to participate as well. So we had a wide ranging age range that was able to participate. We're bowling, and the youth really love that.
And then ask to bowl again. So we'll be bowling some more. And our youth director is a part of the band team. And she's looking into kickball. We have some new gyms out throughout the county. They're brand new out in the western side. And we're looking at trying to get access to those, thinking that they're probably not as dominated by the regulars. Maybe we have an opportunity to get in there and get our kids in there. There's also a walk trail in a park over by the lake. And we plan to try to do that with our kids, do some kickballs and walking. So we really need to ramp up our youth activities. We know that, that's a challenge. Our seniors and our youth, that's where we need to go. And we do serve a healthy lunch, actually healthy, everything healthy. When they have like graduation, the luncheon for that is a healthy lunch. We tell the congregation it will be a healthy lunch, and it is a healthy lunch. So we try to keep them involved. It's difficult with teenagers, you know, they know their own minds and they're only gonna do what they really wanna do. So you have to try to figure out what that is. And let those who have the feel for it, those who really work well with them, let them do it. Let them do it. And, we're hoping that that will work. And that's another thing about as you start things and things start to go wrong, you need to try to look to see what the problem is, because one thing that we learned was that just advertising will not bring you a crowd. I mean, our advertising for healthcare was tremendous. I mean, we had the promotions out there. And we had a decent crowd, but as much advertising we did, we should have had overflow, I thought. So you have to think about other things to do. So we're getting ready to plan a makeover meal, getting ready to have a cooking demonstration with a makeover meal being shared. And we're going to use another strategy. We're going to try to let each one of those churches participate in this makeover. They're going to bring their own makeover meal, and we're going to find out whose makeover meal is the tastiest. So we think that we're going to have to try to get people from within those organizations, in those churches, to come because they have a reason. Got to come see about this makeover meal. I make sure ours is the best. That's going to be our next strategy, is try to get people to come to it. That's what we learned.
Thank you so much for your questions this morning. If we were not able to address your question, rest assured that you will have an opportunity during our breakout session to ask more questions of our panelists. Please join me in thanking them again this morning.